Sure, there's tons of fun ways to eliminate those cult of personality or those elitist issues. My favorite example was during the first Bolshevik Revolution. It's nothing to do with communism at this point. The values were so hot then of not having people in charge that the orchestras, and since I came from an orchestral background, I thought this was amazing. The orchestras fired their conductors, and they just turned their ensemble towards each other and looked at each other and played without conductors, without any authority and leader figure. And that was beautiful, and I appreciate that a lot. But I'll just say this, one of my biggest pet peeve is being seen in any type of larger way. I can't stand that. My new tactic now is to threaten self-imposed exile. This is what I do very frequently now. I say, listen, I might just drop this tomorrow. What are you going to do then? You know, if anyone looks at anybody else in a leadership role, it doesn't mean that authority doesn't exist. Every time you go to a dentist, you're giving up thought to an authority, someone who's done research. I think people should respect each other for the work that they've done to learn certain things. Doesn't mean that they are the guru or they are the only person. It's all data. It's all data. So I'm irrelevant. It's only my probability and ability to put these things together and achieve interest, but that is not even really me. That's the conglomerate. I think there's no universals with respect to how people become jealous or how people think about their monogamous or non-monogamous relationships across the whole spectrum of human society. It's really hard to see or to tell whether we truly are a monogamous or non-monogamous species. There's plenty of examples in the counterculture, if you will, that people live very peaceful lives with, say, 2 husbands or something to that effect. So, you know, I would say, first of all, there's no universal element there, and I think it's more of a byproduct of the system of property that we have holistically, that we consider ownership and the ring and the whole process, and it's all traditionally derived, you know, because of the need to reproduce. There's these social establishments that have been made to make sure, well, and probably in a lot of, probably actually is based on making sure the kids were taken care of and we knew who produced these kids. All of that aside, though, property issues in a resource-based economy doesn't mean that there's no ownership outright. It means that it's access rather than ownership. Ownership becomes elusive. What does it mean to have something that you need and to make sure someone doesn't take it? You don't want someone to take it, they won't take it, excuse me, because they have access to it too. So it's non-ownership in the sense that there's enough abundance made and enough respect inherent in the system that people have no need to do it. They can't resell it. It's reinforced, as opposed to today where it's the exact opposite. Now everything is being stolen across the board, and business itself is a theft process inherently, and that can't work. So everything that we see from the spectrum of crime is the same kernel of the same trend, whether it's extreme greed in Wall Street or it's just some kid stealing a pack of gum. So I think I understand your question. I don't necessarily think it would lead to violence. I think there's no 100% universals, there's no utopia. So people getting along and people adapting, if people get in conflict because of their spouse or issues, interpersonal issues, which are usually value derived anyway, a lack of understanding. If I was in a relationship and she went and cheated on me, well, that's her decision. I might be upset by that, but that has nothing to do with me. That's her decision. That means the relationship in that formality is over. That was the causality of it. People aren't mature enough, unfortunately, to think that way. So you have bar fights and all these things reinforced. All of our television shows are all about infidelity. All the movies are about someone getting revenge, and all this stuff is so reinforced. Can't tell you how many friends of mine have had problems like that, and they won't blame the person that was, quote, cheating. They blame the other party, which is even more interesting to me. That's very common. Very common. It's amazing. So to argue it's human nature and that these things will persist, I think is not, it's too hard to solidify. I think it could easily be more civil and more mature.